Alright, y'all. AEW Dynamite review for February 16, 2022. So it starts off with CM Punk sitting cross-legged in the ring. And he says, some of these wrestlers became wrestlers because of me. Some of them became straight edge because of me. MJF tries to walk like me and talk like me, but he can never think like me. And then he says, when he beat me in my hometown twice, he would think I would be furious. But he says he's proud of MJF. Says the foundation of Max's career has been a ring. He has used to beat opponent after opponent. Says he won more cage matches than he lost. He pulls out a dog collar out of a red box in the ring. Says nobody wants to be in a dog collar match. Sometimes they take years off your life. Says, I need you to come out because there's one more thing I want to tell you, and I want to look directly in your face when I say it. So MJF comes out, and then CM Punk pulls out a picture of CM Punk and MJF as a kid. I think he went to get his autograph that day. I've never seen this photo before. And then he tells MJF, I'm sure you remember it well. He says the canvas will be stained with your blood. And then MJF looks like he's gonna say something, but then he just leaves. He had like this shocked look on his face. Pretty good opening segment. Punk on the mic. All right, so we got next up's the first match: Bryan Danielson versus Lee Moriarty. Real slow start to the match with holds and submissions, just chain wrestling. And then Bryan has Lee trapped between the ropes, and he kicks him. He's like his arms hooked to the ropes. Bryan knees Lee in the face while Lee's feet are hanging on the ropes. Back from commercial break, they exchange punches, and Bryan gets a crossface on Lee, and Lee gets to the ropes. Lee hits a back suplex, and then he hits a belly-to-belly suplex for a near fall. Lee locks in a crossface. Bryan stands up to counter it, and he suplexes Lee. Bryan hits the running knee, and then he does the famous stomps to the head, grabbing his arms to do the stomps. And then Bryan transitions in which triangle choke for the win. It was an okay, decent match. And then he grabs the mic and he says, I asked Jon Moxley to create a new AEW. Moxley said he stood face to face with the man they call the best wrestler in the world. He came up short, but getting a taste of the best just made him angrier. And he tells Danielson, he says he has never beaten Danielson. Bryan Danielson wants to join forces with me. He's like, how awesome it could be. Giving something back to this business. Says he couldn't think of one reason to say no. The only reason he wants to stand side by side with me because he doesn't want to stand across the ring from Jon Moxley. And then he says, or he asks him, does Bryan want to be my partner because of what we could do? Or of what we could create? Or because he doesn't want to get destroyed? And then he says, I don't stand side by side with nobody till I bleed with them first. Pretty good promo from Moxley. So it looks like they're going to have a match at Revolution. And then maybe after they'll create their faction, I guess. Should be cool. It'll be a good match too at Revolution. Alright, next up we got Warlow versus Max Caster. Warlow goes for the powerbomb. Caster hits Wardlow with the chain in his hand. Caster hits the elbow drop, or their finishing move, the mic drop on Wardlow for a near fall. And then Wardlow hits 3 powerbombs for the win. And then after the match, Bones attacks Wardlow. And Wardlow powerbombs him too. So pretty much this match was just whatever. Alright, next up we got Hangman Adam Page segment. Right before he says anything, Adam Cole interrupts him. He says, you have earned the right to call yourself world champion. He says it's a shame that championship reign is going to come to an end pretty soon. Page says he often wonders how it must feel for you to leave and watch from the distance. Says your friends build a wrestling empire without you. He fires the first shot in this segment. And then he says, I wonder if it must feel being in the ring with your Ring of Honor roommate. standing in the ring with an AEW World Champion, looking at this belt and knowing this is the only World Championship you will never hold. And then Adam Cole says, let's talk about friendship. And he says, I haven't heard the Young Bucks say your name in weeks. How about the Dark Order? You haven't been associated with them for months. So both these guys firing shots, firing back and forth. And then Cole says, what kind of friend are you? Page says, I'm not perfect. You don't have the best record with friendship either, do you? I had some regrets. I made some mistakes, he says. And Cole says, you've become an unbelievable world champion. Anytime we've been in the same promotion, you have always been known as the other Adam. They're still going back and forth. Someday we will fight for the world title, he says to Page. And when that day comes, may the best man win. And they shake hands. Cole walks away. And then Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly attack Page. Cole comes back to the ring. And they all gang up on Page pretty much. Security guards come out to stop the attack. And then Dark Order comes out. And then number 10 from the Dark Order just starts beating the shit out of the security guards. Pretty good segment. This was probably the best segment of the night between Adam Cole and Adam Page. So most likely they're going to face each other at Revolution for the world title. Next up we got Chris Jericho and Jake Hager versus Santana or Ortiz. And then right before the match starts, Eddie Kingston comes out to be in the corner of Santana Ortiz. And then to start the match, Jericho and Hager hit a shoulder tackle on Ortiz. Hager hits Ortiz with a belly-to-belly suplex. Back from commercial, Ortiz hits a clothesline on Jericho. He tags in Santana. Jericho hits the code breaker. And Hager hits a slam on Santana for a near fall. Jericho goes for the lion salt from the second rope. Ortiz grabs Jericho on the ropes. And while that happens, Santana hits a Russian leg sweep from the middle rope for a near fall. This was a cool looking move. Santana Ortiz hit the street sweeper for a near fall. Jericho puts Santana in the walls of Jericho and he gets to the ropes. And then Santana hits the discus lariat on Jericho for the win. A little slow start to the match, then things picked up. It was a decent match. Next up, we got Mercedes Martinez versus Thunder Rosa. No DQ match. Rosa throws Martinez into the barricade and it falls over. Back from the break, there's a table set up diagonally from the apron to the outside of the ring. Martinez suplexes Rosa through the table. The whole table didn't break. It was like the end of the table broke. Not sure if that was a botch or just, I don't know, something messed up there happened. And then back in the ring, Rosa hits a Hurricane Rana on Martinez. Rosa throws a trash can on her or at her, and then puts the trash can on her head and drop kicks her. Martinez then hits a spider German suplex on Rosa, and then Martinez hit an elbow drop on Rosa for a near fall. Martinez puts a few chairs in a pile, trying to set up for a move. Rosa counters it and hits a thunder driver on the chairs for the win. It was an okay match, and then after the match, Britt Baker and the rest of the girls, they just gang up on Thunder Rosa. And then, so Britt Baker has a lead pipe. She gives it to Mercedes Martinez. She tells her to beat her up with it, and then she just stands there, and she's just hesitating, and they just gang up and beat the shit out of her, too. Alright, main event, Sammy Gavor versus Darby Allin. Before the match starts, the crowd's just on fire for this match, start of the match. So with a slow start to the match, pretty much just headlocks and chain wrestling. Sammy jumps, or he holds him like this on his back he's in the corner on the turnbuckle standing on the second rope. And he just drops Darby onto the turnbuckle and he goes just bouncing off the top rope to the outside of the ring. And then Sammy hit a senton on Darby, who's like hanging off the top ropes. Back from the break. Darby chop blocks Sammy. Darby hangs Sammy in the corner upside down and then pulls one of Sammy's legs down, pretty much just stretching him out. Shit was probably painful. Sammy hit a Spanish fly on Darby off the ropes for a near fall. That move just crazy when he does it off the top rope. And then Darby locks in the figure 4. And then they just slap each other, and then that's how he broke up that move. Sammy hits the... Okay, so this is probably the best spot of the match. Darby goes for a suicide dive through the ropes, and Sammy catches him with like a cutter RKO. So that was pretty cool. Sammy goes for the senton. He has Sammy set up on the apron. So he goes for the senton, and Darby moves out the way, and then Sammy hits the apron when he does the senton. It must have been brutal on his back. And then Darby goes to the top rope. Jose comes out. I think it's Andrade's manager to interfere. Sting comes out and just beats the shit out of him. Andrade hits Darby with the tablet while the refs occupied with Sting and Jose. And then Sammy hits GTH on Darby for the win. Pretty good main event. So it looks like they're setting up triple threat match at Revolution between Sammy, Gavor, Darby Allin, and Andrade. That match, it could steal the show at Revolution. So we'll see what happens or who wins. And then for the rest of the night, I thought it was pretty good segments. Pretty good show tonight. Decent matches. Main event was probably the best one. The other matches were just decent, whatever. Yeah, so I thought it was a pretty good show tonight. Alright, see ya.